Hello, everyone, and I'm going to be giving my presentation on my teaching philosophy, and my name is Cole Porter. My old feelings on the teaching profession. I thought as teachers, it was our job to just instruct young children and provide a space to allow them to gain social and interpersonal skills. It was our job to provide children with essential tools they would need that they would not be receiving while with their families, and it was our job to help build upon the education that the children were being taught at home. So I thought teaching children was very straightforward. Just give them what they need that they weren't receiving from home and just giving them the space to interact with their peers and the child would thrive. The quote I have is the early childhood education profession under the leadership of the NAEYC is committed to raising the overall quality of early education for all children. My newfound perspective on what it means to be a teaching professional. A teaching professional now is a multifaceted professional individual that applies their knowledge and resources to educating children. We're responsible for cleaning, feeding, and teaching and building relationships between a child and teacher and teachers in the family. We continue to improve the quality of education being presented to children. And we want to teach kids to make them reach their utmost potential. So I now understand that we as teachers are a part of a team. We're part of a team with the child and the child's family, and in order for the child to grow, we need to all be working together. And as my job as a teacher is to make sure that the education being presented to the children I'm teaching is held to the most highest standard so that they can gain the most knowledge. Early childhood education teachers are usually the first to admit that they are not in this profession for the money. For many of them, the fact that they make an impact on the life of every child they encounter is a powerful incentive, and that reason, once they enter the field, they're there to stay. My old outlook on children. I thought that children from birth to 8 were incredibly smart. Every interaction and memory children create and retain can affect their future and life path. They require a lot of support and attention and guidance so they understand life. It is important we act as guides so that they can safely navigate the world and learn appropriately. During the first 8 years of life, children grow and change more rapidly than at any other period of their lifespan. And brain develops best when children experience loving relationships. So, of course, children learn a lot during the birth through 8 years. And so I just thought that was pretty straightforward as well. And I knew that those children were like sponges, always constantly soaking up information, their surroundings and what they're observing. And I remember when I was 8 years old, or not 8 years old, I was maybe about 5, and I was watching Power Rangers. And my favorite series of the Power Rangers was the Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue, because their main job was to save people's lives. And one of the Power Rangers was a nurse, and the other one was a paramedic / firefighter. And I was really inspired, and I think that's what transpired for me to want to save people as well. A new perspective on children. I see now that children from birth to 8 years old are sponges that are rapidly learning about their environment. Children learn to self-regulate and how they fit into their peer and social groups. Children are building their confidence and form interactions and experiences that will affect their development long term. Brain develops best when children experience loving relationships and play opportunities to explore the world. Interesting and engage things to learn about a healthy, safe environment. During the early years of a child's life, their brain is developing, which in return will allow them to store and process more information, but it's crucial that they remain safe and protected. So one key takeaway from this is that children learn to self-regulate. And oftentimes you might see this when children expressing themselves when they cry, or they might hold themselves, or they might have their blanket. I feel like one of my nephews, when he was growing up, one way he learned to self-regulate was always having his Game Boy with him, and that was his source of comfort. So children have all types of ways of how they comfort themselves and learn to basically handle their emotions when they're stressed or when they're sad or angry. And one classroom observation I watched as a child hug another child too tight, and I watched as they worked out their conflict. So basically, he hugged the little girl a little too tight, and she ended up crying. But the little boy ended up apologizing, and they were able to work out the issues and resolve it, and then he was able to give her a gentle hug, and she felt better. And it allowed the little boy to understand that he needs to hug a little bit gently. My teaching philosophy. Teachers should provide positive interactions to create a safe environment to assist with children's learning and meet their developmental and emotional needs. So a child cannot grow in an environment if they're constantly feeling afraid or threatened. So in order for a flower to bloom, you must provide the essential resources it needs. So we need to help our children thrive by making sure that our environment is safe. In absorbing numerous preschool and kindergarten classrooms, Stepek found that positive effects among children and teacher interactions seem to go along with developmentally appropriate practice. Play helps a child's brain develop and assists with strengthening motor skills, learning to share, and compromise. So this is why it's essential that we as teachers allow free play in our classrooms and allow the children to dress up, to use their imagination, to let their creativity run wild, so that way they develop these essential skills, because now is the time for them to develop them. Research demonstrates that play contributes to language development, self-regulation, attention, creativity, problem-solving, and social and emotional skills. So this also makes me think back to when I was a child and we would play those games such as hot lava, where the ground was lava and we had to jump on the couches, jump on the chairs, make sure we don't touch the ground, and work together to save each other. And it was those type of activities that helped develop our language and helped make sure our attention span was there, making sure we were problem solving so we could work around not getting into the hot lava, and those emotional skills that we needed to. And so it's important that we allow free play, because every free play interaction helps build these essential skills with children. Now, when it comes to incorporating inclusion into the classroom, each child requires different needs, so each child should receive plans to receive their individual goals to meet their needs. Each child should all be included in the same activities, but the activity and materials will be geared towards their needs. So it's important that we try not to single out children. We want to make sure that they're included, but not bringing too much attention to them and showing that, yes, they're different, but not super different. And remembering that each child is an individual, and sometimes they might have individual goals and needs, and we should all work to meet those needs, because again, we are all a team. Children with disabilities display a variation in skills beyond what is considered typical. As a result, in many instances, these children qualify for special education services. Teachers need to decide what amount of assistance each child with special needs requires. So as teachers, we need to understand that there are some students with special needs, but we still need to provide the proper assistance we need to make sure that they are not falling behind in our classrooms. And when it comes to culture needs to be incorporated into the classroom to ensure that diversity is discussed and incorporated into the curriculum. So it's important that we present cultural diversity in the classroom, such as pictures, art, books, and making sure that we're not tokenizing it. So if we're going to incorporate culture, we need to make sure it's going to be authentic and genuine. And education of culture helps to remove stigma and bias in the outside world. Culture has a huge influence on how children experience their growth and development of how they are nurtured. And understanding a child's culture allows for teachers to become better teachers and to build stronger relationships with families. And I think this is extremely important because, for example, with myself, I lived in California for the majority of my life, but there was a time where I lived in Georgia for 2 years. And in that 2 years, I met lots of different ethnicities that I never met when I was in California. It was my first time meeting people who were Puerto Rican, people who were Panamanian, people who were Dominican, and it was a culture shock for me because I have never seen these people of these ethnicities before. So it's important that no matter what, we try to understand people's cultures, because for me, it was understanding that there was multiple Latin ethnicities and each one was specifically different. So as teachers, it's important that we recognize that. Connection to the family. As teachers, establishing positive bonds with children is crucial to meeting the child's developmental and educational needs. All families have strength and resources, hopes, and dreams for their children, just as families face challenges. So it's recognizing that some families do have these hopes and dreams for their kids, and they might have super high expectations, and it's still our role to help these children meet those dreams and expectations, but also making sure that the children um, get there safely and it isn't hindering their self-esteem. Families face obstacles, and this can impact the child. We have a responsibility to provide and support and assistance with family and educational needs within our limitations. Professionals may provide parent education to support parents' confidence, enjoyment of interactions with their children. So we can provide extra and additional resources to support these families and to support our team. And I noticed that teachers building a respectful yet personal relationship with children's parents and their rapport is good. So when I was doing my observation, I noticed that the teacher was talking to the parents on a first name basis. They were asking each other how their day was. The teacher was able to relay information to the parent very easily, and their conversation seemed really genuine and authentic, and it didn't seem forced. And I really liked that. Developmentally appropriate practice. Whatever the process through which curriculum is selected, developed, or planned to be effective, it must be implemented with attention to individual differences and cultural variation among children. Teaching with intention is more beneficial for children to learn and reach their goals. So it's important that we teach with intention and we have a game plan. It's not the best to go into the classroom not knowing what you're going to do for the day or not knowing how you're going to get these children to grow mentally. I remember learning the scientific method in school early on and finding out which plant is going to thrive depending on which nutrients we give it. So that for me was special because I love science. So it was important for my teacher to provide me with developmentally appropriate practice to help stimulate me. Good curriculum, whether published resources used in school districts or teacher developed, offer teachers flexibility and ways of adapting, often providing many suggested activities that teacher could possibly use. So if you ever run out of options as a teacher, you can always find other resources to bring into your classroom to help your children grow and thrive. So it's important that you never feel like you're stuck in a corner when it comes to teaching, and you always have other options and resources available. That end.